on Valentine's Day this past year, the Kardashians like talked about our sex gummies. Our entire community, they weren't even using their affiliate links. They were just like, "Oh my gosh, House of Wise and Kim Kardashian, like this is
Yeah,
so cool." And they care about like the brand even more so than the products that you're selling. So, and that's the like marketing holy grail, is that you want
totally.
somebody to have such like an emotional connection to who you are, what you stand for, and
Yeah.
thus buy your products versus the
Yeah.
flip side.
Yeah. The sense of belonging, I think is the language you use, they feel like they're a part of what you're building, whether they're, on payroll or not. And
Yeah.
that is something no one can take away from you. You talked about it as a moat, I think earlier too. It's a competitive differentiator. And I think for too long, we've thought about the emotive side of marketing as this sort of nice to have in B2B at least. And I think now we're starting to see, no, there's
No,
humans
for
behind
sure.
these logos that we're selling to. So
Definitely in
that's
D2C
awesome.
too. Like we
Yeah.
saw it was like, okay, first it was brands in the 90s. It was like Nike and,
Yeah.
like you name it, and the brand stood out. And then we
Yeah.
entered social media phase where you could just buy customers. And then it was about
Yeah.
CAC and, if you could just keep growing based on efficient spend.
Yeah.
And now it's like, okay, that's no longer working. We have to go back to building a brand that resonates and breaks through the
Yes.
noise.
Yeah. I want to ask about that. You mentioned content is really at the heart of one of the content and community, really at the heart of the marketing strategy. What I'm seeing too is this sort of um, fatigue, maybe a little bit on the paid media side. I think you mentioned it as well. Earned, I think there's always obviously a place for great storytelling, but this sort of resurgence of owned media, this idea that we need to own our narrative, we need to own our distribution into our audience. Social is great, but you mentioned email and the power of sort of having that direct connection. I'm curious, kind of just how you think about the content um, mix, I guess, because so much there's surely is the product level content and product level education, but there's also the brand level. Like here, these are things we care about. This is conviction we have as a brand, and that sort of there's an entire I would imagine spectrum from a content perspective. How do you guys think about prioritizing what type of content you're producing and that sort of thing?
Yeah, so I'll break it into how we think about our buckets for PR, but then how we think about it for actual long form content. So for PR, it's like three buckets. There's a founder led angle where it's the humans behind the brands. Then there's the brand, where brand first, which is, female empowerment, how to empower women to own their sexuality. And there's the brand pillars. Then there's the product, where it's like the best sleep gummies for,
Right.
why. So kind of those are the three buckets that we use across both PR and in our owned, blog, etc. Now, when we're doing long form content, we're always thinking about how can we repurpose what we're doing in various channels. And so it
Yeah.
always starts with like, what is something someone can learn that's valuable? Because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. Like, we don't talk about me in our long form content, like founder led
Mm,
stays in PR. Um,
yeah.
but for us, it's truly about building a media business that people really want to learn, and they are going to benefit from reading whatever this piece of content is. But there's so much you can do. Like, if you look at our spreadsheet of our content library that we have internally,
Yeah.
it's like we have the piece of content, we have a link to it in the blog and who wrote it, but then we have, has it been utilized on Instagram? Could we do
Mm,
something on TikTok? Like, you're looking at each channel that we have we used it in an email? What was the click-through rate on that email? How is it ranking? And then everything has an SEO lens, but there's a way to really think about content as has to be value add. It cannot just be about promoting yourself, because the second you're just promoting yourself, people see it as an ad.
yeah. Yeah. Ties back to value creation for the community and
Yeah.
value for, regardless of the products ultimately.